Now, there's a couple of other things that are going on in this Russia thing. And people are conflating two separate storylines, and we need to separate them. This morning I got up and I watched the testimony of Comey with Trey Gowdy, who is, by the way, just tremendous. He is just tremendous.
He's a very good prosecutor.
He is. That's what he was born to do.
Oh, this is when he's at his best.
Yeah,
always.
it is. It is. So he was going after Comey, and he was talking to Comey because there is a statute in the law that Congress was so concerned about giving the government power through these FISA courts to go ahead and listen to foreign officials on foreign soil and have, if they're calling somebody here in the United States, what happens if, somebody who's involved in something nefarious, they call Pat, but they're not talking to Pat about anything nefarious. Pat's just an innocent bystander. What happens if that's released with Pat's name? You destroy him, and you cause him to look like he's part of some criminal organization or terrorist organization. No. Congress made a deal with the NSA, with Department of Homeland Security, Justice Department, everybody who's involved in any of this stuff. And they came up with a deal that said, we're going to mask those names. And there's going to be maybe 100 people in the entire country that can unmask a name, and that person has to be at the collection point. So in other words, if the NSA has this, investigation going on somebody, and they give that information masked to the FBI can't say, let me look under the cover and see who that name is. You actually have to go back to the original collection point and say, here's why I need this name. Because I think it's a guy that we're looking into. Can you verify this guy? They unmask it and say, yep, that's him, or no, it's not. Okay? That's the way it works. And if it works any other way, it is 10 years mandatory prison sentence. Well, somebody unmasked the names of the transcripts, and it was most likely an Obama political appointee. And that's a 10-year prison sentence. That has to be solved, and somebody has to go to prison, unless it's like Hillary Clinton and we don't really care anymore.
Well, she can't go to prison. She's Hillary Clinton.
Right, I know. But maybe it's somebody else like Clapper, and we don't really care about them either, because it's James Clapper. So there's got to be some special exceptions, I'm sure, for some of these 100 people. Trey Gowdy is saying that person needs to go to prison, because if we can't trust that you're going to keep innocent names of Americans out, then we can't trust this system at all, because it'll become politicized. He's absolutely right. Now, that is separate, and that storyline is good for Trump, because it looks like somebody was politically after Donald Trump and was using the system the way it's not supposed to be used. That's different than wiretapping and everything else. That's just who unmasked the names. 10-year prison sentence. Somebody needs to go to jail for that. Separate that now from the storyline of, was there collusion? Now they're saying collusion with the Russians and the Donald Trump camp. There's been some absolute bombshells this week that have been released that the right doesn't want to talk about, and they're conflating the two. Somebody in the Obama administration needs to go to jail for releasing names. However, there's the story about the financial ties to Russia with Manafort and Flynn. Manafort was getting $10 million a year from Russia and laundering this money. Now, we've known this before Trump was elected, but we didn't have verification. We now have verification and the documents to prove it from a Ukrainian lawmaker. And the reason why these Ukrainians want to do this is they don't like Vladimir Putin. They don't like Russia. And Manafort was working basically for Putin and his puppet in the Ukraine. And that Ukrainian Russian-friendly party was the one writing these checks to Paul Manafort to get, his job was to get a positive spin on Russia, to make sure Americans saw Russia as friendly allies and not a foe. Well, I would say mission accomplished there. He was worth his $10 million.
Oh, my God. Underpaid. Underpaid dramatically.
Oh, yeah. And that was not disclosed anywhere. Paul Manafort never said that. And the same thing happened with Flynn. He was being paid tens of thousands of dollars, and he never disclosed it. But that is just one story. The second story that came out yesterday was now the FBI is admitting that they are looking into collusion with the Russians going after Hillary Clinton. And it's beyond, I mean, I thought it was collusion myself. I thought it was wrong when Donald Trump said, hey, I hope you hack some more. I thought that was bad. They're now saying that they have evidence of meetings, of documents, of recordings where the Trump administration or the Trump people were actually colluding with the Russians on releasing more information.
Someone in Trump's campaign.
Someone in Trump's campaign. And more than one, it appears.
And again, I would say that is a early level story. I wouldn't say it's confirmed that we know there was collusion by any stretch yet.
No.
So, I mean, it's important to note that.
We have the FBI. We have one source at the FBI.
And they're looking into it, right?
Yes.
This is apparently what Comey was referring to when he said they're looking into this. So there's a lot of details around this that are important. Another one from the side of Trump and the leaks, which I think you're completely right. This should not, you can't unmask these things. This is one of the issues with this. And it's what we said from the beginning, by the way, because yes, I think it's very plausible and actually understandable that a campaign person who is talking to a Russian ambassador, right, would get swept up into communications that we are monitoring. The problem with that is it can be abused, and it may be a case here where it was abused, which is something worth looking into. The other part we should point out is this seemingly happened, at least to the reporting so far, after the election. So Trump had already won. And then while that does not mean that the person, whoever did it, gets out of their trouble, it's important to know that, I think, from the perspective of understanding what the motivation was here. There are a lot of stories that happened after Trump won. Remember, the Obama people did not think Trump was going to win. Nobody did. I mean, at least because if you're saying I knew he was going to win, well, you should have freaking gone to a sports book and made 10 times your money on election day. Then you should have done that. But I mean, they did not think he was going to win. So after this, there were many stories that the insiders were trying to preserve evidence of these things happening, thinking in their mind that Trump was going to come in and get rid of it and make sure that no one ever knew about it. So that is an interesting little thing that they may have thought to themselves, well, and thinking to themselves, well, we're in the right here, and he's going to hide that evidence, so we're going to make sure we get it. And that should end in 10-year jail terms. That activity, whether they think it was justified or not, should end in 10-year jail terms. But it did not have an effect on the election in any way.
The left is dismissing the first part. The right is dismissing the second part. Both are valid. And any fair-minded, justice-minded individual will address both of them and separate them from one another.